Coming up on the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show today, we're going to talk about starting a garden right now so you're ready to go in spring next year. Some of the tips that will make it much easier for you come early next year.
We're also going to talk about some garden myths. This is our fourth installment of garden myths, and we have host from Frugal Green Girl on YouTube, Tawny. She's going to give us some frugal tips.
As well as listeners' questions, as well as questions via social media. All that starts right now. It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5, wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening, whether on those particular stations, the TuneIn app, the Simple Radio app, or anywhere in between. I am your host, Joy Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner, who is always with me,
Holly Baird.
This show is brought to you by great sponsors that you'll hear throughout the program, and executive sponsors like
Nasala Kombucha is the executive sponsor of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Nasala is made in Wisconsin with local tea and natural herbs. Look for it in the refrigerator aisle at your local grocer. If you don't see it, ask for it, because it was not Nasala Kombucha. It's not kombucha. Find out more at nasala.com.
And you can call in with your garden questions anytime during the show on the ivorganics.com 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline.
IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard naturally protects plants against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, protects newly installed plants and trees, shields prune and damaged surfaces for use on your roses, fruit, and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. This product is non-toxic, environmentally safe, and organic. For more information, visit ivorganics.com. And you can call 414-444-5250.
Those are the digits in which you can get a hold of us. And you can do that throughout the show. We want to welcome those new listeners that we had. We were at Muskego Public Library on Tuesday on Holly's class on basics of canning. So we want to welcome them. We had a great turnout, as well as we've got several talks this week. You can come visit us at the Mequon Public Library at 6 p.m. this Thursday when we are doing another basic of canning class. Teaching, I guess it's a class. It's not really. It's just informational based.
It's not like hands-on. It's more like us providing the information for you to be a safe and effective home canner.
And then you can join us Friday and Saturday, 4 to 5 p.m. both days at the Wisconsin State Fair at the Horticultural Building, where we will be talking on growing great garlic.
And that's next Friday and Saturday, not today, next week.
Now, the Horticultural Building, if you're coming in off the Milwaukee Mile, it's one of the first buildings on your right, or it's right across from the Expo Center building there. It's real easy to find, but we'll be there 4 to 5, and you can stop in and say hello and learn a little bit about growing great garlic. So with that being said, let's talk about how we can get our garden, or a new garden specifically, started for next year, so we're not going crazy come March, April next year trying to get something established. We can get it already going, or at least the steps going right now.
So maybe you started listening to us and now you're like, hey, I'm going to grow a garden. Maybe you catch our show every once in a while. So growing in the ground is going to be the cheapest option.
But it's going to be that's the most amount of work that's got to be put into it. You can purchase, rootmaker.com raised beds. Art of the Garden embrace us to make your raised beds. Containers is very easy to do. But again, ground is going to be the cheapest. But there are some steps in which you need to do, or can do now, in order to ensure that what you do in the spring is worthwhile.
Right, definitely.
First thing is we need to look up.
Right, especially right now, all the foliage is filled in, so you know where your shade is going to primarily be. So think about that. Especially maybe on a day like today where it's sunny out, you can figure that out pretty quickly.
And that's number one. Now, if you're going to decide to do a berry patch like blueberry, blackberry, raspberry, strawberry, or an orchard, that you still need to look up, because if you're planting trees underneath trees, that just doesn't work so well. We'll discuss that a little bit in a minute or two. Secondly, we want to figure out how large we want our garden to be. We want to stake it off so we visually can see, okay, that's how big it's going to be. We want to do that. Then what we want to do is we want to call Digger's Hotline and have them come out and mark the underground utilities, because if you've got a whole gamut of utilities underneath the particular area in which you're going to want to put a garden, it serves no purpose to try to dig there because it's not going to be safe and they're not going to let you. Now, explain quickly what Digger's Hotline is, because it is a free service that they provide the people.
Right, so Digger's Hotline is a free service. They come out, you call 72 hours before you're intending to dig, and they'll mark 72 business hours, and they're going to mark where if there's any utilities, any sort of pipelines, what have you, where if you dig there, then it may cause problems. And then they also inform you have to be 2 feet off the adjacent property or something like that, so that you can have an effective ground digging experience. Right. Essentially, it's a free service, and it's something that you definitely want to do because it could end up disastrous otherwise.
Right, and now I put that at the top of the list because we want to look up, we want to mark our area so we visually can see how big it is. We don't want to try to start a farm. You want to start small and something you can manage. Then you want to get your underground utilities marked if there's any, so you can know, well, if that's not the spot, I need to find somewhere else, so you're not scrambling next year going, well, I got to figure somewhere to go. Next is, before we even put a shovel in the ground or do anything, we want to get a soil test, because if the soil is toxic where you intend, everything's okay to dig because the Digger's Hotline marked it, and if it's toxic, if it's acidic, if it's alkaline, you want to know what you're dealing with. And you can get these. You can call the University Extension office and find out where to get the soil test. They are available on packages or bundles on Amazon. You pay them, buy the package, bring it home, or they get shipped to you. You do the necessary steps, mail it off, and they'll email you the results. So we want to figure that out, because there's no reason to do all these other steps and then find out at the end, oh, my soil is toxic, or there's just no life in it or anything like that.
Right. Doing something like calling Digger's Hotline, that's a free service, so you can do that. But while you're doing that, it's a good idea to get that soil test. Now you might think to yourself, I don't want to do all of this. This sounds like a lot of work. Well, the good thing is that there are some alternatives. One would be to build a raised bed, or to do a container, or some people call them like planting in pots.
Well, with the raised bed thing, because we're in the middle of summer, if you're going to buy lumber from the big box store and you're looking to buy compost from Blue Mills, you've got some time to kind of watch for sales and get a better deal than if you was going to do it like, I got to put it together tomorrow because I got to plant on Monday type of thing. So you can look for sales and at the big box stores for lumber, and Blue Mills, I'm sure, will have sales on the compost or other items that you will need, so you can actually save money on the front end to get your garden going.
Definitely. So that's something to think about. Or if you perhaps know somebody who owes you a favor, or has some lumber, or you can even find deals on pre-fabricated raised beds. Sometimes you'll see stuff, on the side of the road. We make raised beds. Call this number, or you can do like a pop-up raised bed as well. Right.
So we've got that established. So the easiest way, let's say we've got a 20 by 30 area, everything's checked out, no utilities underground, the soil is good, the sunlight's good. Here's the easiest way to go about it if we're going to go in ground. Go get you some very thick black plastic and cover that area in which you intend to grow or garden next year. Do it now. Make sure you mat that thing down with blocks or bricks or lumber or whatever. What happens is you're baking the soil and killing all of the life and all the viable seeds in that soil, in that area. So by the time, then you leave it like that until next spring, you remove that plastic, and then the microbial life will come back. That's not the problem. What you're wanting to do is kill all of those weed seeds, all of those grasses, that weeds. Now, if you do have bushes, shrubs, tree roots, you might want to get those out before you put the plastic down, just because it'll be easier. And then next year, when it's time to plant, you can go ahead and, if you want to disturb the soil with a garden fork, or if you do till, that's your deal, you can get that loosened up, and you don't have to weed. You don't have to really worry about weeding. There will be weed seeds and that will germinate. That's part of life, unless you go strictly raised bed or container.
One thing I wanted to mention also is that straw bale gardening. That's a very good idea, especially if you don't like weeding, you don't want to haul compost, you don't want to build a raised bed. You can definitely consider straw bale gardening. It's a great self-sustainable system. You just have to condition the bales. Most bales last 2 years. and then you can just keep replacing them. I think it's something that a lot of people enjoy.
Yeah, and even if you do regular ground garden or container garden, essentially straw bales are a container, and we do all of these genres of gardening. So, you keep that in mind. If you're wanting to establish some, you want to get wood chips for walk paths, now's the time you can start figuring that out. We're trying to give you the information that we have learned over the last, experience between us, 25, 26 years, something like that. So it's, again, not, okay, we've got to make everything happen in the next 7 days, and now it's overwhelming, and now I kind of maybe don't think I want to do this type of thing. Growing just a small garden, big or large, can be very rewarding for you and your family, and healthier, and it gets you, active in the backyard. And again, you don't have to have ground. Containers work fine, as well as raised beds. Is there anything else that we're missing? Oh, if you're wanting to do like a tree, like a small orchard, you can start getting your layout figured out, wood chips where the walk paths are going to be, get your spots where the trees are going to be planted. If you can still find...
Think about maybe what trees you want to grow.
Yeah.
That's definitely, do some research right now. And the same thing for a garden. Think to yourself, why am I growing a garden? What do I want to grow? How much do I want to grow? How am I going to use that produce? Things like that. That'll give you a better idea of what your needs are.
Yeah, and then, do that with the trees. You may or may not be able to find the trees you're looking for now. They will be available in the spring, but you can just have everything ready, dig the hole, plant the tree. And a lot of these trees, based on what stage of growth they're in when you purchase it, obviously the older the tree, the more expensive, but the quicker you're going to get a return on the fruit. 3, 5 years, maybe even 2 years on some of these trees are going to produce fruit relatively quickly. So we hope that, if you haven't got a garden, this inspires you to think about it. Or if you have one and you want to expand or look at other options, this will be a good starting point for you. Well, when we come back, we're going to help you additionally prevent you from doing some things that just doesn't make sense, because we're going to debunk another set of garden myths right after this.
Tweet Joey and Holly using hashtag TWVG.
Hotchin Mill, 125 years of experience producing stone ground organic flour and cornmeal made from premium quality whole grains. Family-owned company, continual standards that are non-GMO, organic at the highest safety levels, offering a wide variety of flours, pasta, baking mixes, flaxseed, and more, even kosher and gluten-free options. Found at most local grocers like Woodman's. For more information and recipes, visit hotchinmill.com. That's HODGSONMILL.com.
The number one key to healthy, productive plants are the roots. Starting from seed to full-grown plants, rootmaker.com has the answer. From seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots, creating a fabulous root system, never again will you have root-bound plants, to multiple gallon grow bag sizes to raised beds. Rootmaker.com has your grow needs covered. Visit rootmaker.com.
Do you have a little space to grow? Check out Greenstock Vertical Gardens at greenstockgarden.com. Greenstock is engineered to grow with its innovative space and water-saving design. You can grow vegetables, flowers, herbs, and even strawberries in just 2 square feet of space. Grow up instead of out. Perfect for the porch, patio, or deck. Grow up to 30 plants in a small space. GreenstockGarden.com has everything you need to grow in the littlest of spaces. Proudly made in the USA. For more information and to purchase, visit greenstockgarden.com.
I want a garden center that listens to and understands my needs.
I want to buy my gardening products from a local business with strong ties to the community.
All I want is a garden center that truly values their customers.
It seems like everyone is selling plants these days, but I'm having a hard time finding quality.
I take pride in my garden, so I want my garden center to take pride in their products.
Where will you be going for all of your gardening needs this season? Blue Mel's Garden Center. We are your answer.
Blue Mel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5 live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So happy you've taken a little time out of your Saturday to join us on the program. Well, you can also take a little bit of time and check out where Tree Ripe citrus will be as they deliver peaches, fresh picked Georgia peaches, right here in the Milwaukee area.
Yeah, if you like fresh produce delivered right to your neighborhood, you should check out Tree Ripe Citrus Company. You can find where to pick up this top quality produce from tree-ripe.com. They have beautiful, tasty peaches, sweet, juicy blueberries. They're in the area right now. They come to local stops in your neighborhood. They also have smaller portions that you can buy at your local farmers market. So definitely check them out. You can find the schedules from tree-ripe.com. They have locations all over, including Iowa, Upper and Lower Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois, and of course right here in Wisconsin. Tree-ripe.com is your go-to for the freshest produce around.
There you go. Check them out. You will not be disappointed. Well, some things that disappoint you is when you do activities in the garden because you've been told or read or been advised that this is what you do because this is what it's always been done. Well, we're going to go over some more myths or debunking common garden myths that you probably have done or know somebody who does do that doesn't make any sense. There's no scientific proof behind it. And
I think kind of no matter what you do, there's always some sort of myths. There's crafting myths, sailing myths, all sorts of things.
Well, we are not in that realm. So
well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, they're in all aspects. Yeah. Right. There's things that you always do. Why do you do it that way? Well, that's what I've been taught.
Right.
So let's go over some of these here.
One I think is good is to always stake young trees. And why is that wrong?
Not all trees need to be staked when they are planted. Some very young trees need to be left to sway in the wind. That develops a thicker trunk on them and sturdier branches. If you lock these things down like it's a radio tower on a hill, they're going to be weak because they're going to rely on the straps of that device that you use to hold them down. And those straps, if put on too tight, will actually grow into the tree as the tree absorbs them into the bark of it. It's not a good thing. While grafted trees and other older than 2 years really don't need to be staked. I mean, they've established that structure in the trunk. And this is very similar to starts or seedling starts. You want to add a little air circulation around them so they sway in the fanned wind in the grow room because they'll strengthen up the stalk so they're not just put outside and they snap over when the first wind hits. So there is some things. Now, if you're going to tie down a tree or you feel it's necessary, one, you want to do your research, and two, you want to establish not tight straps. You want it to be loose to where it has a little flexibility. Yes, if a 90-mile-an-hour wind comes, it's not going to uproot it. It's going to catch itself, but it's going to add some, allow the tree to do some flexing on it. So don't always stake down your trees when you plant them.
Right. So the other one is that if you put pea and bean roots or legume roots in the soil, say like you do, they call it like a chop and drop type of thing. If you put that in the soil, that will affix nitrogen into the soil.
Beans, peas are legumes. There's other ones that will actually help the soil build nutrients. But the myth is that when you dig up a pea or a bean plant, you look at the roots and there's little balls or nodules on them, and that's where that nitrogen is fixed for the plant to absorb in order to grow correctly. The theory is, okay, you've got the bean plant, it's done its thing, you cut it off at the base and you let the roots stay in the ground. That nitrogen left in the roots will help feed the soil. Well, there's not really any nitrogen left. The plant has used up everything that it has stored for its reproductive procedures in order to put the fruit on. So it doesn't do any good. Now, there are different cover crops in which you plant, they grow to a certain stage, you cut them like Holly said, you allow them to fall on the ground and you work them into the soil, and that nitrogen in the plant will actually break down and basically compost in the soil and feed your soil. Yes, but it's not the roots releasing that excess nitrogen that it has built up, because it hasn't built up. It acquires what it needs in order to flourish and do its growth cycle. That's the reason why that is so misunderstood.
Right. So then there's also, what's the next one?
Gardening myth. Here's another one. Gardens need 15 minutes of water each day to flourish.
Right. So,
and we've talked about this, an inch a week. So why is this not the truth?
There's just too many variables. Basically, there could be things where your plant then. So the rule of thumb is 1 inch per week, either by irrigation or rainfall. So there's many variables. So if it's 15 minutes of water each day, that could be how much water are you putting on? How much,
Are we dripping?
Are we dripping? Yeah, are we dripping? Are we spraying it right onto the plants? How are you doing that? So there's just too many, as they say, it doesn't apply because there's too many variables. Just like statistics, there's always variables. That's one of them.
And the other issue with this, by watering 15 minutes a day, you're not allowing the water to penetrate through the soil to reach the roots deeper than just shallow. By just watering the top inch or so, you're going to allow plants to develop very shallow roots. And this is a bad thing because the roots need to grow deep in order to pick up nutrients that is in the soil. And by shallow roots, they're easier to be uprooted by a real rain or wind. And it doesn't create a healthy plant. Shallow roots, it doesn't. You want a long watering duration. Drip irrigation for 45 minutes, an hour and a half. A lot of these drip irrigation systems, each emitter will only produce a half gallon an hour, but it's at the root zone, so it drips directly down. And you figure a half gallon an hour at a drip, you're going to saturate a lot of soil around the roots and get that water to go down deeper. And the deeper the water goes, the deeper the roots will go. The more roots it will create, the healthier the plant's going to be. So we want to keep that in mind. We just don't want to spray for 5 minutes. Oh, it looks like the top of the soil is wet. If you actually look and rake back some of that soil a half inch deep is not wet at all. You've got to really soak these plants. And fortunately for us, we've been getting rain relatively on a regular schedule here in Milwaukee, that we don't have to really worry about that. But that is something we need to be conscious of when we do go watering plants ourselves, especially in containers. The thing with containers is, and this is a lot of people have hanging baskets or containers, the container, when the soil dries out, it will actually pull away from the outer portions of the container. So when you water it, and all of a sudden you see water coming out of the bottom of the container. Well, you think, okay, I've got it watered. Well, what is happening is water is going into the container, running to the side, running down the side, inside of the pot where the soil has retracted from the side of the container, going to the drain hole and running out, so it's not really absorbing any water whatsoever. So you really have to water intensely on containers to allow that water to absorb. Or if you have like a hanging basket or a smaller container, you can actually put that into a tub of water and allow it to soak up the moisture an hour or 2 hours and let that soil completely expand with the water instead of just hitting a little bit, we're running out, oh, it's good enough, and then your plant dies because you're not allowing the water to penetrate into the container.
Well, that's many people, and what you usually want to do is you want to water until the water runs out the top, then
to the bottom,
out the bottom, so you can see it coming out, and then come back a little bit later, water it again. That way, you know you're getting efficient water to it.
That's right. Another one is weed landscape fabric, the Gore-Tex, the weed barrier, that type of thing.
As a weed barrier.
As a weed barrier. Right. You look at a lot of these labels on these weed barriers. Put it on there to prevent weeds from coming up in your garden, and this will allow the water and the sunlight to penetrate through. That's not true. Based on the density of its woven.
For one, a lot of times water will just puddle on top.
And try to funnel into that hole that you've got cut for your tomato or pepper plant. Right.
So that could be problematic because all of a sudden now you're watering one tiny portion, possibly flooding your plant, and the water is just in that one area. So then what happens is that the weeds underneath that fabric, yes, they may stay dormant, but as soon as you pull that fabric up and it's exposed to the air and the water, bam, you get all these weeds.
Or you put a mulch there, and then you got all these weeds, and you grab the weeds to pull, and all the mulch comes up because it's all embedded inside the mulch on top of the weed barrier, and you're trying to figure out why the plants aren't growing. Well, they can't get water, they can't get sunlight. The weeds on top have sucked up all the moisture, and you've got weeds on top of weed barrier, and your plants aren't doing that fantastic. So there is some applications in which weed barrier is good for, but for the vegetable garden, no. For some perennial beds, I wouldn't recommend it, just because doesn't allow the water to penetrate. Now, if you get something that you allow the water to penetrate through, well, then that's the opportunity that the weeds can come back up the other way because the fabric is so loosely woven that it doesn't serve any purpose. So
the other problem is if you use this near your shrubs or trees, you're blocking the roots of those things to get water properly as well. So then a lot of times those roots will come to the surface, causing you more problems.
And finally, let's talk about marigolds to keep bad bugs out of the vegetable garden. Everybody is saying, and there's a lot of videos, a lot of people, we plant marigolds around the garden to keep the bad bugs out. Well, number one, marigolds attract spider mites. That's a big bug that you don't want on your tomatoes. That's a bad thing.
It also depends on what kind of marigolds you use.
Right.
You can't just go to your local garden center or your big box garden department and just buy the cheapo $2 for $3 packs of marigolds, because those are not the true marigolds that you want. If you are going to do this, you want to get basically the heirloom true marigolds. So those are some you would probably have to start from seeds. But just like anything that's going to, a lot of times something that's going to keep bad bugs away can also attract bad bugs as well. So that's something to consider. Just like they say marigolds keep rabbits away, you come back and the rabbits have chopped your marigolds.
Yeah, you watch your rabbits eat the marigolds around the garden one after another.
It's just a little appetizer for them.
Right. So, and not all, like you said, there's good, marigolds. You got to get the right one, and even sometimes that you may not even be able to find those plants. So you want to look at why you're doing certain things, and does it logically make sense to you? Okay, I'm putting flowers around the garden to bring in good bugs, but keep the bad bugs away, and keep the bad animals out. But I'm watching animals eat those flowers.
It's kind of like you have to live in harmony with what you have. And so sometimes you have to find an effective way to deal with something, and not saying that you're an idiot if you've done this, because
we've done it.
We've done it, and a lot of people have done it. And same thing with, as we talked about last week, with the traps that keep the Japanese beetles away. It's something that you have to consider about where you're putting it, how you're doing it, and is it effective, and are you using it correctly.
Right. If you have problems with rabbits, invest in Bobex and a 2-foot poultry fence that we use around our garden, and leave it up year round. That really deters the rabbits from getting in there. There's going to be some that will get in there, but it really reduces the amount of activity that goes, because it's really hard to get bean plants to grow when the rabbits mow them down every time that they sprout out of the ground. So the Bobex and the fence really reduces the problems that we have, and a small amount of what's called poultry wire to surround your garden is perfect. Well, something that you will need to make your yard look perfect is good quality lawn mowing equipment, and Aaron's can help you with that.
Do you hear that? That's your neighbors shaking in their grass-stained shoes, because Aaron's is about to help you step up your grass-cutting game. Your name is on the mailbox, so the Aaron's name should be on your mower. Heavy-duty steel construction, smarter, smoother controls, professional cutting performance. The only thing we love than the smell of freshly cut grass is a sweet taste of victory. Aaron's, it comes down to this. Visit Aaron's.com for your local dealer for lawn and snow removal equipment.
When we come back, you want to learn how to live frugal. Our next guest, Tawny from Frugal Green Living Girl, will be with us right after this.
Have a gardening question? Email Joey and Holly at twvgradio@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah. What you say? You say Nasala Kombucha. It'll put some glide in your stride and some pep in your step. Nasala Kombucha. Yeah.
Nasala Kombucha makes your body happy. Nasala Kombucha makes your body smile.
Beans and Barley Market and Cafe, a neighborhood specialty grocery store for the east side and greater Milwaukee area, where you can find all you need, from fresh produce to bakery to organic frozen dinners, from wine to fresh squeezed carrot juice, a health food store with hundreds of products, vitamins, supplements, bath and body items, magazines, cards, books, and a knowledgeable staff. Catering available, open daily at 8 a.m. The restaurant serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week with a menu of good, healthy, homemade food, including vegetarian and non-vegetarian Specialties, 1901 East North Avenue, Milwaukee, 414-278-7878, and online at beansandbarley.com. Mycorrhizae is a beneficial fungus from PlantSuccess.com that will greatly increase your plant's germination ability and a healthier root structure. You can increase seed sprouting, root growth, and general plant germination. Mycorrhizae can be used with hydroponics, root cutting, seed sprouting, cocoa coir, and soil. PlantSuccess.com carries powder, granule, and tablet forms of mycorrhizae. Increase the level of mycorrhizae in your soil for your plants to give them the optimal opportunity to produce an incredible harvest. For more information and to purchase, visit PlantSuccess.com.
The River West Co-op Grocery and Cafe is proud to support the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener and a lot of other Wisconsin growers as well. The co-op offers a wide range of local and organic produce in their store and on their cafe menu, from apples to yogurt and everything in between. Open 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. weekdays, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. weekends at the corner of Clark and Frackney in Milwaukee's River West neighborhood. See what is in store and check out the Co-op Cafe's delicious vegetarian menu at riverwestcoop.org.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5. So glad you've taken a little time to join us this morning here in Milwaukee and around the country. Well, one place in which you can go that you know that you're going to find knowledgeable advice, and they know what they're talking about, and sometimes they'll talk you out of what you want to buy because it's not going to be applicable for your particular growing situation, is Blue Mel's Landscape and Garden Center, the official garden center of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show.
Yeah, they definitely are that place. They've been around since 1955, family owned and operated. The owner works in the building. That definitely says something no matter the size of your garden landscape need. Blue Mills at 4930 West Lemus Road in Greenfield can supply and surpass all of your garden needs. You can go to bluemills.com or call at 414-282-4220. They're south of Layton on Loomis Road.
And then we'll be there August the 17th at 6 p.m. talking basics of canning. Well, Holly, let's go to the ivorganics.com hotline and bring our next guest. We're going to Colorado to do that.
Tawny is the creator of the YouTube channel Frugal Green Girl. She shares her everyday experiences of saving money and living within your budget on her YouTube channel, being frugal creatively while being realistic and raising a family. Welcome to the program, Tawny.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us and give some of your frugal living knowledge, sharing that with Holly, myself, and all of our listeners.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, well, I want to start with this. What happened? You know, not everybody is able to be frugal for whatever variety of reasons. What was the aha moment or the life-changing event that caused you to say, hey, this is the path I need to go with your life and your family?
You know, as a child, I came from really humble beginnings, and while that was really hard, it really taught me the value of hard work and being smart with what we have. And so dictionary.com, explains, being frugal is just being economical in use or expenditure, saving prudently and not sparing, not being wasteful, and just requiring few resources. And so I knew that was really the way that we would be able to give our kids the best life, was just to, be as smart as we could with our money.
Now, that was your upbringing. What was your husband's reaction when you said, hey, I think we need to go this route? Or was there any resistance at all from him?
There was at first, but as he saw what kind of results was, produced, it was really actually a pretty easy transition for him.
Okay. So many people may be...
many people may be good at setting financial goals or staying on budget for a while, but then get sidetracked. And I do this. I'll be like, I'm going to save money. Then I see a cute shirt or a skirt or something I want to buy, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, it's only, maybe $15-20.
And you see it on sale,
I see it on sale, too, which is, also the bad part. How do you stay on track? How do you keep focus without getting too sidetracked from seeing things like that?
I can totally relate to that. And honestly, I'm a big fan of visuals. Something like a vision board, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that specifically. So just having little reminders around that we can see, like inspiring quotes or pictures of the thing that we're saving for, or, some kind of a chart that, tracks when we're buying down our debts, or, again, those savings goals, those types of things. Just having things that we see really helps keep me on track, because in the end, life is just full of decisions. Saying yes to this really means saying no to something else. So saying yes to, some cute throw pillows from Target is saying no to, putting that money towards saving for our house, or, financial freedom and buying down our debts. So, just having something to see daily really makes a big difference for me.
And also, it depends. You've featured this in a couple of your videos. You don't buy spring clothes in springtime.
No, I don't. I buy them out of season because that's when they're the cheapest.
And that's the way maybe a lot of us need to think about. Maybe we won't get that fancy one we want, but we can get something similar for like 90% discount from what it would have cost.
Exactly, yes. It really does require being future-minded when we can be.
Now, so what are some frugal everyday things you can do to save money? Most people know, if you work outside the home, bring your lunch, it's going to save you some money. But what are some other really good things?
That's a really fantastic question. And honestly, I would say that food seems to be the number one thing that people ask me about, because it seems to be the main thing that wrecks people's budgets. So I just recommend doing and bringing, like you recommended, from home everything we possibly can. So make and bring our coffee, bring a bottle of water. These little expenses really do add up. So I meal plan for our dinners so that we're never tempted to eat out, and on a busy day, even utilize the crock pot. Just things like that. It just really keeps us, from being in the stores during the week. We'll go grocery shopping during the weekend and then not spend any money during the week, which is, what really keeps us on track with our budget.
Well, and you talk about bringing your own coffee. Now, based on where you get it, and you know where I'm talking about, some of these coffees are $5 or $6, and you do that
exactly
10 or 15 times. That you're looking at almost $200.
Yes,
just on coffee.
Yes, it really does add up. So $5 to $15, a day seems really harmless, but when you add it up, that's like $1,300 to $3,900 a year. I mean, that's a lot of money to pad our savings. A really nice vacation, whatever people have as their goals.
So you talk about being frugal every day. What is something that you absolutely say, no, I'm not being frugal on this, and where do you draw that line?
I feel like when it crosses the line is when it becomes cheap. Like, I'm always going to be fair with other people. I'll always pay what I owe. I'm never going to be a taker, so go out with other people and always expect them to pay. Skipping on a tip. Anything that hurts other people or makes our lives or other people's lives unnecessarily harder is definitely where it crosses the line.
I would definitely have to agree. So I guess you did a video on this, but my car is personally getting older. I've had it for 13 years. It's 14 years old at this point. At what point do you let it stop nickel and diming you, and then you look for something else?
I can honestly relate to this, especially right now, because my husband's truck is broken and we need it repaired. So yeah, this is definitely something we're thinking about right now, actually. So yeah, good job for maintaining yours and keeping it going for 13 years. That's great. But when it's no longer dependable, or it's just really inconvenient because it's, being repaired frequently, or if, the repairs are becoming either close to or exceed the value of the car, I think that's when it's really time to acquire something else.
And you had this with your husband's car, too, that you actually said, I'm not driving it anymore because of a variety of different things that was wrong with it. But he said, I want to keep driving it until it won't drive no more.
Yes, he did. See, I told you he was on board right after he saw the results that it produced. But yeah, this is one of the ones where he wanted to. I would even. Right.
What is the most? And we talked about the taking the lunch and not buying the coffee. What are some other like really common frugal ways to live that people just really don't even look at it because they're not even aware that exists?
Yeah, so something like what the most overlooked frugal thing people, do. I would say the most overlooked thing that people aren't frugal on, even really frugal people, is just looking into their loan options. So like, say, a mortgage. Not exploring your options for a mortgage can save tons of money, like up front at the closing table, but also hundreds of dollars on a monthly basis with higher payments, or even tens of thousands of dollars over the life of the loan. Not mention keeping us, shackled to debt and keeping us from reaching our goals. Or even a car, like, you just said, if you need a new car and you're unable to pay for that with cash, well, if we have to finance that, a lot of people will just go through the dealership that offers the financing, but you may get a better deal from, acquiring financing from your bank. So just not exploring our loan options and, exploring the different loan products out there is probably the most overlooked thing, that people could save loads of money on and really don't.
Well, let's talk about buying a house. What is the you purchased a house, or you're in the process of, on your videos. What was this was your long-term goal, obviously, and with all of these different steps, that allowed you to narrow down and save this down payment and buy the house of basically your dreams?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So the way we did that is we just save ahead for things. So we basically treated putting money in our savings like a bill. So every time the paycheck would come in, we would put that money directly in savings and then spend after that, rather than spending first and then saving whatever we have left over. That way we could better put, have the amount that we needed, in a timely manner to be able to put as a down payment for the house. Or even other bigger expenses, if somebody wanted to redo their kitchen, rather than, borrowing $5,000 and then having to pay that money back with interest and having the kitchen cost you, $7,000. If you just save ahead and treat that money like a bill, like save that money on a regular basis and a set amount, then you'll reach that $5,000 and then you just pay that. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
Absolutely. And then also you did some spending freezes. And for people who don't understand that, can you briefly describe what a spending freeze is? But that doesn't mean you can't buy necessities.
Yes, it means you cut back any spending except for bills and necessities, any spending whatsoever. So anytime like you mentioned, you saw something that you liked on clearance, but it's not necessarily a necessity, you basically skip paying for it or buying it. And this is a time when you use up all the odds and ends of things. You get creative with your dinners. You can get out those little samples of, shampoo that you got at the hotels. Things like that. You just really reach deep to see what you currently have and spend the least amount possible. And I think a lot of people would be surprised at how much money that this can generate in a very short amount of time. Even just a spending freeze for a week, can save, $100 or more.
Well, also it allows us to see how much stuff we really have that we didn't know we have that we can use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you taking time. Holly and I both appreciate you taking time to spend a little time with us, sharing some frugal living tips with all of us. For people who want to find out more about you, what's the YouTube channel that they can go visit?
That would be youtube.com/frugalgreengirl, or you could just search Frugal Green Girl in the YouTube search bar, and you'll find my channel there.
Well, Tawny, thank you very much for taking time.
Thank you, Tawny.
You've opened our eyes to a lot of things that maybe we didn't know beforehand.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
You're absolutely welcome. When we come back, your garden questions and our garden answers right after this.
Have a gardening question? You can call into the ivorganic.com hotline at 414-444-5250 right now.
Garden seeds do not have to cost a fortune. Just 99 cents at migardener.com. With over 300 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, and organic flower, vegetable, and herb seeds available year-round, pay less and get more seeds. Shipping as low as $2.50. That just makes sense. Go to migardener.com for seeds and gardening needs, tools, and special blend fertilizer. migardener.com. It's that simple. Family owned and operated. Do you have a problem with deer or small herbivores eating your vegetation? There is a natural solution that is safe for your pets and family. Bobex is the answer. An environmentally friendly solution to protect your plants, will not wash off, and is guaranteed. Bobex Deer was independently tested against 9 known competitors and rated 93% effective, second only to a physical barrier. Bobex can be used on all types of ornamentals, trees, and shrubs. Ask for it by name at your local independent garden center. Find out more, visit bobex.com. BOBBEX.com.
The international food selection at Woodman's is more than just salsa and soy sauce. We stock a huge selection of foods and ingredients from all over the world. Whether it's Asian, Latin American, European, or Middle Eastern, Woodman's has it. Plus, each store has its own unique selection. With Woodman's, you don't need to visit multiple stores to get what you need. We have everything you need under one roof and at a great price.
Hi, I'm John Lewandowski, retail manager of Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center. Now, I'm not going to tell you about our awesome dome-grown plants, our beautiful pottery, or our 40 varieties of landscape materials. What I am going to tell you is that Blue Mel's is a local, independent, family-owned garden center that truly cares about your garden or landscape project. So if you're looking for that one garden center that actually cares about you, come to Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center. We've been treating our customers like family since 1955.
Blue Mel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220.
Traditional gardening, raised bed, or container gardening, Joey and Holly are here to get the most out of it. It's the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
Yeah, the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show live in Milwaukee on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5. So happy you've joined us today. We've got a number of questions in which we are going to answer that we had come in on social media. But if you have a question, you can certainly call into the ivyorganics.com 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline.
Ivy Organic is a 3-in-1 plant guard, naturally protects plants against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, protects newly installed plants and trees, shields, prune, and damaged surfaces for use on your roses, fruit and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. This product is non-toxic, environmentally safe, and organic. For more information, visit ivyorganics.com, or you can call in right now with your gardening question, comment at 414-444-5250.
We had a number of questions come in this week. I'll start with this one for you, Holly, because you're more of a canner in the realm of safe canning than I am. Can I can fruits, peaches, and pears with using Splenda instead of sugar? Okay.
You just threw that question at me, and you didn't tell me to prepare for it. So we'll have to get back to that question at some other point.
You have done it that way, correct?
I've done jam.
Jam that way, but you haven't successfully or looked into whether or not you can use sugar.
Right.
Okay. Or whether
what are you doing to me here?
Okay. All right. So let's go with one that let's go with. We do have a caller on the ivyorganics.com hotline. Caller, do you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering, is there a special way you can tell the difference between an outdoor plant and a weed?
Plant identification is there an easy way to tell the difference?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of depends. Did you intentionally grow something in that area?
It's sort of like an older house, and not intentionally. No, I didn't. I had planted some seeds and wildflowers, but sometimes I see stuff grow between them. I don't know. Is it a flower or a weed?
If you like it, then you could consider it a flower. If you don't like it, you could consider it a weed. Oh, okay. If it's something that's possibly edible, and you don't know what it is, you definitely don't want to eat that.
Right.
But if it's just for decoration, I think some of the weeds on the side of the road are kind of pretty. So, I guess that's kind of in the eye of the beholder type of thing.
Oh, okay then.
If it starts to take over your other plants, then obviously you might want to remove some to let the other ones that you intentionally put there grow.
Right.
And if you are able to take a photograph of that and send it to us, either hashtag TWVG or email us at twvgradio@gmail.com, we will be at least able to better identify or have an option of looking at it and saying, oh, yeah, that's this or that or so on.
Okay.
So thank you for your call. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thanks.
So another question we had was, my peas are coming up, and you talked about planting peas for fall and said they need to be trellised. Can I just use sticks and leans? What can I trellis them with? Limbs.
Yeah, you can use anything to get these things to grasp onto. As you see peas grow, they're going to have, what do they call it, tentacles, Holly? What the little things that reach on and grab the
tendrils.
There you go. And they need anything, whether it's a tomato cage, whether it's a fence, whether it's just sticks you jammed in the ground. Because what happens is if they grow too high or too tall and they don't have something to grab onto, they will fold over and snap their stems. So yeah, sticks, limbs, twigs, tomato cages, junk. It doesn't matter that they will need something to grasp onto as they grow.
So one question we had come in was, on canning zucchini relish in the video. We let it sit for 3 hours. It's basically in some salt is what it is.
A salt brine.
So yeah, well, it's not really brine. It's just the salt itself.
Salt itself too.
And so what happens is that zucchini is a very water dense vegetable, and so what it does, that salt, anything you add, any vegetable you add salt to in cooking or anything, is going to draw the liquid out of it. So so that's one thing that it does. But basically, I always use safe canning recipes. I use good canning recipes and reliable sources. So I'm going to follow that recipe. And yes, I mean, yeah, you should definitely question something sometimes, but in the long, or in the short, I guess, is to definitely do it by what it says.
And if you didn't, let's say you didn't let the water extract out of the zucchini relish, you're going to have such watered down.
I think it would get very, very watery.
Soggy.
Yeah.
You're not going to have that dense relish that you're familiar with when it comes to your topping your hot dogs or whatever you use for that. I have some potatoes that I found sprouting in my cupboard. Can I plant them, and do you think they will grow, Holly?
Well, yeah. I mean, if they're sprouting, they want to grow. It kind of depends also on how long you might need now at this point, because now we're in August, so they might not grow this year. Kind of depends on the variety, but you could certainly try. But if you have that issue in the spring, definitely go for it. We did it last year. We had some potatoes I bought, and we put them in, I think it was mid-July.
And they're going to grow a whole lot better in the ground than they will in your cupboard. And if the sprouts are 7, 8, 10 inches long, you don't want to snap those sprouts off. You want to try to plant those deep and then leave those sprouts alone, because otherwise you're going to put that potato in a recovery mode. By snapping that sprout off, it's going to have to regenerate. Then it won't grow at all by the time the season's over. So yeah, you can certainly do that. If it's an organic potato, absolutely. If it's a conventional non-organic potato, it may not grow very good, because a lot of times they spray what is called a growth inhibitor on them to prevent them from sprouting or slow them down, so they look more appealing to you when you buy them at the grocery store.
So about blueberries, I have 2 small bushes. We are moving, and I want to take my blueberries, but I need to transfer them. Is that something I can do?
You can certainly do that. You want a very large container for blueberries. And there's like wild blueberries, there's domesticated blueberries. If they're just in your front yard porch area, the flower bed, you can certainly do that, but you want to make sure your soil is acidic, and you want to get an acidic soil, because blueberries like an acidity about 4.5–5%. Native soil is about 7-ish on average. So you want to be sure that you get your soil right, so when you put those blueberries and transfer those in, that they don't go into shock, because if the soil is not the correct acidity, these blueberries will not grow correctly and may even die. So yeah, you can dig them out of your ground. Be sure you have a very large container, and then you can move them to your new house.
So here's another good question, and you want to answer number?
Yeah. I want to start canning. What is a good recipe? What is the simplest thing that I can start canning? Is jam like the easiest thing I can do?
No. Okay, so most people think, I'm going to make jam or jelly. And I would say safely, we have a video on our website where you make fruit juice jelly. If you want to make jelly that way, that's really simple. But actual jam and some other jellies is not simple. So what you could do, which is typically simple, is something like salsa. That's pretty simple. Canning whole tomatoes, that's simple. Even pasta sauce can be simple. Something that jam can be a science, because you want your jam to set and you want to be successful. That could be frustrating to you. So something that's more, you don't have to wait for it to set type of thing would be easier.
Now there's water bath pressure canning. What about just straight refrigerator pickles until you understand how all the steps go?
Refrigerator pickles would be a good process, because you have to make a brine, and you have to...
You don't have to worry about the water bath and all that right away. You
right.
Understand that.
So you could do that. You could, make a brine and do that. That could be kind of fun too. But once you get past that part, then actual canning would be good for like salsa or something like that.
Okay. So start out simple. So...
I thought jalapenos stayed green, but a few of mine started to turn red. Does that mean it's time to pick them? Or is it just too late when they are red? Maybe it's just the variety.
Well, we've been conditioned as a society that the majority of peppers we buy or grow when they get large and they're green, time to harvest them. That's technically an unripe pepper. So whether you're growing jalapenos or green bell peppers, if you let those things set on the vine long enough, they will change their skin color. And actually, there's more, beta-carotene in those.
And this can even happen to a pepper you buy in the store.
Yeah.
I've had it happen to me, a bell pepper. I buy it in the store, leave it in the fridge. A couple days later, now it's going to be yellow or orange or even red. So it just kind of depends too.
And they always say eat your fruits and vegetables that have color because it's better for you because of that beta carotene in it. It's healthier for you. But yeah, we leave all of ours on. Even the banana peppers and the Hungarian sweet peppers, they start out with a lime green, and then they change to a yellow when they're ripe. So we wait until they fully are ready, and then we harvest them. So
if your peppers are red, that's not too late. That's good.
You're right where you need to be.
You want to go ahead and use them.
Yeah, you're right where you need to be. I assume blight is... I'm assuming I have blight on my cucumber plants. They are rusty spots, they have holes in them, and it's spreading fast, and they look like they are dying. What can I do to prevent this? Well, number one, you don't have blight on your cucumbers. Cucumbers don't get blight. What you probably have is...
you could possibly have that rust. Bean rust,
or
well, I don't know what else you're thinking.
You could possibly have a disease.
Oh yeah, disease.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's anthracnose, and it's caused. Oh, it's a fungus.
Yeah.
And it's a pathogen that can attack all things like cucumbers, muskmelons, watermelons. So one thing is to make sure you have good seeds. You could.
Which is a little late now if you've already got this problem.
Right. You could get resistant varieties. If you have this problem now, don't plant any of these things, which would include watermelon, cucumbers, or muskmelons in that area for 3 years. You could use drip irrigation.
Yeah, a lot of this, like we talked about, I think it was last week with powdery mildew, a lot of this is can stem from or start with water laying on the leaves too long and not drying out before nighttime temperatures.
Right.
I mean, when it rains, you can't do anything about it.
Any fungus that you have can spread by moving it. So if you have this problem, or if you might be susceptible to fungus, do not work that area while it's wet. Because if you work that area while it's wet, it could cause more problems for you.
And remove and destroy the infected leaves or vines at the end of the season. You don't want to compost them. Now, if you have these on just a few leaves, you can go ahead and cut them off. 20%.
Right, you don't want to cut more than 20-25%.
But be careful what you touch.
Right, and be careful what you touch. And that's another thing is that if you're going from plant to plant, it could be problematic.
So if you have a question past our show, you can certainly email us at twvgradio@gmail.com or tweet us at #TWVG. And this show is made possible by great companies you heard throughout the show. And
Nasala Kombucha is executive sponsor of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show. Nasala is made in Wisconsin with local tea and natural herbs. Look for it in the refrigerator aisle at your local grocer. If you don't see it, ask for it, because if it's not Nasala Kombucha, it's not kombucha. Find out more at nasala.com.
Join us next week. We're going to talk all about what fermentation is, the benefits of it, and how easy it is to go ahead and do in your own kitchen without a whole lot of equipment, as well as hugelkultur, what it is it right for you, and the benefits and the cons for that, as well as our guest from Southern California, the Los Angeles area. He started finding out that food deserts existed, and now he's creating food oasis, as well as he's a TEDx speaker. He is known as the Gangster Gardener. Ron Finley will be with us. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. And until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joey Baird, and we will see you in the garden.